So this is it. Power to the People, the documentary concert film, the Lennon's live legacy. It's the only full post-Beatles concert that John and Yoko gave, and it's now been restored, re-edited and remixed. But how does it stack up? So I went along with my Beatle buddy Rob to see this at the local cinema, and it was good to see it on a big screen and also to have the sound through a decent sound system. The picture quality was okay, still a bit grainy to be honest, and perhaps not quite as good as you might have expected. But are mine and everybody else's expectations running higher since, we've had restored film renditions of other movies and films over the year? Perhaps so. Did it really spoil my appreciation of it? Not at all. The setlist represented here and on the Power to the People box set is not fully complete, obviously omitting Woman Is, but also Sisters Oh Sisters from the original concert. The setlist is, however, well curated and very cleverly provides Yoko with a song selection that is fast and rocking. The show opens to the recorded version of Power to the People as John, Yoko and the Elephants Memory Band take the stage in, attire that belongs exclusively to the early 1970s. The opening number is New York City and being played on her home turf, if you like. John and the band can't really go wrong, and the band do find their feet pretty quickly. The Elephants Memory Band have had their fair share of critics over the years for not being necessarily the most refined and competent ensemble, but for this show, which is largely pretty pacey and heavy, they deliver pretty efficiently. Having said that, the band are supplemented by the awesome drumming stalwart of Jim Keltner. Jim, a friend of John's, was asked to supplement the band, and I think that was a pretty clever move. He really does bring impetus to the whole band, and I think John chose very wisely in having his friend Jim take up the sticks. Visually, the movie adopts the split screen format, which is pretty clever use for a concert film in particular, and it allows the viewer to follow the proceedings more dynamically. Different performers contributing at the same time in a song can also be represented at the same time, and generally the storytelling is much more enhanced. One thing that you can't help but notice is that audience shots often highlight members of the audience with tambourines that were distributed to the audience and were a promotional piece for a group of nightclubs in the New York area. John and Yoko share the song interchange pretty consistently throughout the concert. Sandwiched between It's So Hard and Well, 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 two great John tracks, is Move On Fast by Yoko, a really rocking version and taken from her album Approximate Infinite Universe. This song really allowed the band to step it up a gear, but for me, the show's highlight was John's rendition of Instant Karma, which is delivered fantastically with solid accompaniment. Following hot on the heels of this is Mother, which is a very powerful rendition and very faithfully representing the original. For Imagine, there are two aspects to this song which really are quite a distraction for me on a song that I absolutely adore. Firstly, John's electric piano sound. It just sounds very toy-like and really lacks the gravitas of a proper piano. I think this was the only song in the concert that featured a very close-up of John as he performed. And one thing you could fail but notice is a very, very slow accumulation and movement of a drop of sweat from the bridge to the tip of his nose. This bead of sweat seemed to be clinging on for dear life at the end of the track. John's only nod to his previous existence as a Beatle is a brilliant version of Come Together, where dual drummers come definitely into play and emphasise the rolling nature of the song. And John very accurately delivers the lyrics, which, despite a hairy arsehole added for good measure, is pretty close to the original. Cold Turkey is absolutely banging and I love it, and the band are well into their groove by now, and Yoko joins John towards the end for the closing screams at the end of the track. Yoko's contributions are delivered with a huge amount of gusto. She really is amazing throughout and appears to be well received by the audience. I enjoyed most of her songs throughout the performance, with probably the exception of Don't Worry Kyoko, which I really find it a challenge to listen to, and to be honest is a good two or 3 minutes too long for my liking. John's happy place is always traditional rock and roll, and towards the end of the concert he delivers a fantastic version of Hound Dog, and he name checks Elvis during the process. Before launching into the encore, Yoko read a passage of text from an old political speech which had obvious connotations to the political scene in 1972. As I listened to it, I could also detect equal familiarity with events in the present day. The horrific, prophetic and chilling words were those of Adolf Hitler. What have we learned? The actual finale is a funked up version of Give Peace a Chance, with a number of friends, both political and musical, joining them on stage in a declaration of intent. It's Stevie Wonder's vocal that cuts through the assembled chanters like a blowtorch through butter. It would have been really good to have had a bit more Stevie, to be honest. The assembled chorus, including Phil Spector, Allen Ginsberg and Geraldo Rivera, were gently ushered off the stage as the groove continued until it eventually broke down, exhausted into a puddle on the stage, and was found there with a scattering of those Japanese helmets that they'd all been wearing. It would have been lovely if John and Yoko had taken the stage again to have taken some acclaim and made some closing words, but the audience clearly enjoyed their night, and I think I would have done too. As the closing credits rolled to film accompaniment of the children of Willowbrook School, whose terrible conditions and facilities were emphasised in an expose that was made by Geraldo Rivera. It was a direct result of his work that led to John and Yoko headlining at this concert, and all the work that they did benefited the children of Willowbrook School. John, Yoko and the Elephants Memory Band were, despite being glued together by the sterling work of Jim Keltner as mentioned before, were a loose outfit and were definitely under-rehearsed for these shows. This was evident by the closing of numbers which appeared to be optional by the band members, and most songs just kind of dissipated into the air. So what did I make of the movie? Well, I enjoyed it a lot, and while I wouldn't go as far as saying it was anything epic, for any Beatle fan, or Lennon fan in particular, you should definitely make a point of going to see it. The thing I reflect on the most, I guess, is that in John's career as a solo artist, as far as a live full concert, this is all we have. The unfulfilled promise of what a well-rehearsed, top-notch band with a full Lennon repertoire could deliver, well, it's the thing of just dreams. Or perhaps the comments below. Have you thought what your ideal Lennon band would be? Other than the obvious three, that is. Well, if you have, and you got ideas on a ideal set list, then why not put them in the comments below as well? Well, I think it's time to give the movie a score. And on reflection, I think it deserves a 3.5 out of 5. I guess one of the next things that we can look forward to is to have a copy of this concert either on Blu-ray or DVD. Watch this space. This really is, I guess, the final piece in the jigsaw that brings together the elements of 1972 in terms of one-to-one, Power to the People box set and this movie. And that really encapsulates the life of the Lennons during the 1972 political period. If you got this far in the video, then thank you very much. Please do consider subscribing to the channel and stay tuned for more content coming very soon. Until then, bye for now.